More NASCAR content? For all the latest in NASCAR, including driver interviews, race recaps, fantasy NASCAR, listener call-in shows, and awesome giveaways, tune in to the Lap Traffic Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site with new shows every Tuesday night. Check out Lap Traffic on the web, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, and follow on Twitter at LapTrafficPC. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!
With the ButtKicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. ButtKicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to playoff racing action. It took us all season, and we're finally here for the Full Send Racing Series. It is time for the round of 12 to start, and we're coming to the perfect destination. It's that of New Hampshire to see how the drivers can tackle the little bit of over than a mile course to see who's going to slip and slide and find themselves up front. Qualifying's just come to a conclusion. We're ready to give you race coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me, Trevor Earhart, as well as Robert Moyer Jr. running productions in the background. Drivers are already starting to grid up, so let's take a look at our starting results here tonight as the drivers are getting themselves settled in, ready for themselves. Trevor, what a night we are getting ourselves here as the driver's going to have that of 160 laps.
Yeah, 160 laps, mile racetrack, 3 distinct lines you can take here in these corners. There's a bottom line, a middle line, and a top line. Playoff racing, Sam, I'm excited for tonight.
Never know what you're going to see, and for 12 drivers, tonight could be a lock-in ticket to make it to the round of 8. But let's find out where they're going to start. Is Nick Holland in the 68 machine going to be taking that pole award for himself? Rob Sherwood, who's been on a hot streak, going to be in second place. Cole Sacchetti going to be in third, as well as Cameron Sarton going to be in fourth. Ross Tatum, fifth. Joshua Altus going to be in that of sixth. Travis Dark going to be in that of seventh. Lucas Lyons going to be in eighth. Ninth is Ken Campbell, with that of Christopher Wade, our winner from last week, going to be starting in 10th.
Chris Stitzel roll off 11th with Aaron Hale in 12th. Will Bustler 13th. Charles Hugel in 14th. Daniel Keith Jr. in 15th. Doug Pierce 16th. John Dart 17th. And rounding out the field will be Brian Burchett and Zach Hall in 19th.
With all the drivers settled in and in their spots, ready to get rolling. Trevor, it's regular season's finally concluded. It's time for playoff racing action. I mean, what a season we've had so far. I'm excited to see what the drivers are going to bring for us here tonight for 160 laps.
Oh, it's been a great season. We've had exciting battles all season long, and these guys, you know, have been on top of each other all season long, all our playoff drivers, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do here tonight, Sam. I think we're going to see some great battling all race long and throughout these playoffs.
As I said, for the playoffs, 12 drivers made it in, that being Cole Sacchetti, Cameron Sarton, Rob Sherwood, Ross Tatum, that of Chris Stitz, Joshua Altus, Andrew Medlin, Aaron Hale, Christopher Wade, Ken Campbell, Nick Holland, Will Bustler are those 12 drivers that made it to the playoffs. Trevor, we were looking at the drivers that were going to make it into tonight's race. We're missing one of our playoff drivers.
That we are missing I believe the 12 car that we are missing, and surprised because you think with it being a short track he would be here, be one of the he was the quickest driver that we saw all season long on the short tracks, and MIA here tonight, Sam.
Andrew Medlin not going to be here, so he is going to be putting himself in a major hole going into that of next week as the drivers head to that of Michigan to finish out this round of 12 before they head to the round of 8. But for tonight, it's time to settle in, buckle up. Are you ready for some playoff racing action? Because we are up in the booth. It's green for the drivers up front. Nick Holland taking the charge with Rob Sherwood to his outside.
And Sherwood's going to dive it in, use that middle line with a great entry. He's going to take the lead from that of Nick Holland and the 24 there of Sarton trying to get around the 68, but not going to have him cleared off of 2, and Holland's going to fall into second.
And we all in line, 160 laps for these drivers. Stage break going to be at lap 50, and up front, Rob Sherwood feeling comfortable for the 2 machine as drivers slipping and sliding, trying to find where the racing lane is. That's what drivers were searching for during practice, but lap number 1, give it to the 2, leading that first lap.
And New Hampshire's such an interesting track. You can drive it all the way to the white or the yellow line. You can run that middle groove where we're seeing everybody running, or you can run just above that seam that you see there. That third line and make time, but it's just going to be where are you comfortable with, what do you think is going to be best on your tires, and right now everybody kind of running that middle groove all the way around.
That middle lane, will it move up or will it drop down? Curious to see how the elevation is going to go. Some of the drivers were talking about how there is a very fast outside lane groove that you could hit, but is it worth it to run that outside lane, especially for the tire wear? That's going to be something I was hearing a lot of, Trevor. The drivers are curious on how the tire is going to hold up here this evening.
Yeah, New Hampshire's kind of a sneaky track like that. It can really sneak up on the tire wear, can really sneak up on you if you're not careful, and cause you to get really loose out of the corners, or, you know, in some cases, depending on how you're driving the race car, it can get really tight out of the corners, and not a lot of room to really allow the car to drift off corner exit with the way that these drivers are currently attacking the racetrack.
Well, we always talk about drivers that are trying to be aggressive in the early going. Well, we've got 2 drivers that are going to be up 2 positions and our biggest movers. That's Joshua Altus in 4th place, as well as that of Lucas Lyons in 6th position, both on the move forward. A couple of other drivers, though, deciding to save on their tires. That of Cole Sacchetti in 5th, as well as that of 7th place, now up to 6th place, Ross Tatum. He's battling side by side, as you see that with Lyons to the outer groove. Drivers settling in. Ross Tatum, one of the drivers, I'm curious on how he's going to run, but this 42 of Cole Sacchetti, most wins throughout this season. This 42, hoping for that momentum to carry on in the playoffs.
I think the momentum's with the 42 machine. Got the most wins in the regular season for Sacchetti. Looking strong to challenge that of the 2-time champion Cameron Sarton for the championship this season, but currently one position separates those two. But I think Sacchetti just, you know, being patient here, seeing what the car is going to do as this run continues, and I think we'll see him move forward as this stage progresses.
And currently, right now, in the early stages of this race, 6 laps in, we're already starting to see some pods of where drivers are running. We got our top 3 really trying to just pull away from the rest of the field, but running on board with that of Cole Sacchetti. You see Joshua Altus in front of him. This is our 2nd pod of drivers, kind of just giving up time, but willing to try to make a push later on. I'm expecting to see here as we're coming up to the start of lap number 7.
Yeah, the 11 of Ross Tatum finally able to clear the 25 of Lyons. Lyons trying to utilize that outer line there with the battling the 11 of Ross Tatum, starting to fall back a little bit. Don't know if he might have worn his tires out a little bit more, trying to make that pass. Wasn't successful. We'll have to see if he can catch back up. But looks like these 3 drivers, at least right now, just taking it easy, like you said, in the early stages.
Back here, it's going to be that of Travis Dart as well as Aaron Hill, going to be running with one another, and they're going to be squished between some playoff drivers with that of the 22, Chris Stitz, in front of the 4, and then behind them it's Will Bustler in the 36. Bustler needing to find a little bit of extra speed, but it's been looking slow during most of the practice. Really didn't find any speed that he wanted. Qualified 13th, still in 13th, as they're starting to catch up to one of our biggest losers, Travis Dart in 6th.
And Dart struggling here early on in this race, got passed by, lost 5 spots already from where he qualified, so just really free falling through the field currently, and he's not too careful. I mean, he's got Will Bustler right there, Charles Hugel, Daniel Keith Jr., those 3 drivers closing in on that 6 machine, so Dart could be in some danger here of falling even further back into the field.
And Travis Dart kind of doing what we would always kind of question for what Ross Tatum was doing for the first half of this season, just over saving it looked like. But I think for Travis Dart could be a little bit of uncomfortability, trying to keep himself off the outside walls. We're running on board with Charles Hugel in the 30. You need to see this traffic all running that middle lane currently. And I'm curious to see how is this going to evolve throughout the night. Are they going to just stay in that middle lane, or will they drop lower or higher with the way that this tire wear is going to evolve throughout as we're only on that lap number 10.
It'll be interesting to see if that line does move, and if it doesn't, how willing are these drivers going to be to use the bumper maybe to get around somebody, because if they're all running the middle line, really no room for you to pass anybody unless you go to using that bumper to try to get around somebody, as Aaron Hale's going to attempt to make a pass here on the 22 of Chris Stinson to the inside out of turn number 4, but just doesn't have the momentum on that bottom line to make a move quite yet.
Not able to make a move just yet for himself, as you're trying these very aggressive approaches, but any change of the line is going to hurt you, especially in the fact that there isn't really a lot of an angle with the way that these drivers are taking these corners. The fact that they're trying their best to lunge forward, lunge to the bottom of this track, but Trevor, you look at this track from up above, it kind of looks like a bigger, almost double the size of that of Martinsville. It's always curious to see how drivers try to take different tracks and correlate it to other courses. How would you try to rank this course, and how would you correlate it or can you, to any other course?
It has some similarities to Martinsville. It's a very, it can become one lane dependent, and obviously Martinsville is very one lane dependent, and it's flat like Martinsville, so it's really, they have some similarities, but you're carrying more speed here than you are at Martinsville. So I would agree with that assessment that it correlates fairly well to Martinsville, just on a little bit bigger of a scale.
Driver down low quickly. That was the 68 of Nick Holland, giving up second place to that Cameron Sarton. 68 starting to get loose out of the corner, which that could be a trend we're expecting to see. Was told these drivers feel that very tight sensation on the entry of the corner. The front right tire is the one to watch out for, and up front the 24 trying to stay cool, calm, and collective as they're trying to catch up to Rob Sherwood, who just continues to gap himself from the rest of the field.
Yeah, Sherwood, once he got that lead on the opening start there, had a great start to the race, and just kind of checked out and running his own pace right now. Got that clean air, able to put his car wherever he wants, and got almost a second and a half lead here over that of Cameron Sarton. But Sarton, I think, starting to slowly reel in the two of Sherwood. He was about the same speed the last lap by, and that, along with the 94 of Altus, we're all kind of running the same lap time.
Rob Sherwood, watching the two machine on how he's been evolving throughout the season. He's been fantastic to watch. He's always had speed, but if they miss, and the unfortunate as caution's going to be waving, wreck further on back, and it's actually a big one, and a playoff driver involved. Will Bustler going to be involved in the entry of turn 1.
Will Bustler involved. Travis Dart also involved in heavy damage to both of those vehicles, so not sure if there was contact there. We'll have to go back and see if we've got the replay of that and see what happens. It looks like Sherwood or Bustler is just going to go ahead and call it a night.
And this is a massive wreck between two drivers battling hard for position. We talked about how Will Bustler was starting to catch up to the 6. They're going to be side by side, a lot of pinching, side drafting, and contact's going to be made here. But Trevor, this is when things go horrifically bad for the 36 machine. Gets clipped, bumped, and going airborne in the sky.
Oh, it's unfortunate. I believe Daniel Keith Jr. also involved in that in the 23, as he drives underneath the 36. And I mean, Sam, I don't think I've ever seen a wreck like that here in New Hampshire. He was helicoptering there in midair going into turn 1.
I mean, you could call it Carfu if you've ever played the, the Speed Racer games back in the day. That's what they would call those types of tail slappers. But man, I have never seen that type of a move be actually thrown on iRacing. But hey, it's the virtual side of things. You never know what could happen. But Will Bustler, that is a race-ending incident. And now he's going to be put in a hole heading to Michigan next week.
Yeah, he's going to be in a must-win situation next week. And it just looks like... I mean, he looks like he just came up into the 6 of Travis Dart there, and unfortunately, they make contact to spin to the inside wall, and once Travis bounces off the inside wall, I mean, nowhere for Bustler to go there, and it sends him 360 in the air into the catchments, and unfortunately, it's going to end his night here tonight.
And that of Travis Dart's in pit road, as well as Daniel Keith Jr. That was the driver that made the initial contact into the Flying 23. Doug Pierce also going to be in pit road getting service done for himself, as 17 laps in, first caution comes out. Daniel Keith Jr. still going to be able to run, get some repairs, and back out on course, as the 6 and the 39 are going to be still in pit road. What an odd wreck to see, Trevor. but we got to see a little bit of a preview of what it was like once drivers got spread out. But that aggressive driving, we talked about how you were going to have to make some aggressive moves. Well, for Will Bustler, just too much aggressive side drafting that made that initial contact. And the absolute unknown is sometimes the iRacing physics that comes out.
Yeah, the lovely car aerobatics. I think aerobatics is the right word there. Going off into turn one, but yeah, just a little bit over aggression, especially for this early in the race. You know, for Will Bustler, he's going to put him and Andrew Medlin, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it here in a must-win situation next week going into Michigan.
In Michigan next week, you know, we've been talking about it in all of our other series that we cover. It's the playoff season when October came around. This was the only series we were covering that was just a little bit later on starting their season, and so the playoffs is just starting here in November. But man, this is probably the only normal looking playoffs. You've got New Hampshire, Michigan for the first round, then it's Homestead, Richmond for the second, then the final race at Las Vegas. Man, can't wait to see what the future brings for us. But we are back to green flag racing for the K-Nugz Paint Shop 169, as it's going to be seen that of Rob Sherwood aggressively trying to block that outer lane. But here we go out of turn number 2. It's the 2 in the 94, all single file.
And it was a great restart from the outside line. Sherwood and Altus there, both jumping that of the 24 of Cameron Sarton into turn number 1. The teammates really timed that restart perfectly and allows them to basically control this race 1-2, as now Sarton's going to have to figure out a way to get back up there into second.
This was kind of a familiar sight to see. We were watching that of last week at Talladega for these drivers, teammates helping one another out. But now at a short track where it can be even more useful if you can block and defend. Driver, though, is trying to hold on. That's the Taco Bell machine, that of going to be Nick Holland, who's trying his best to not lose any more ground. But that 68 kind of right now looking like a one-lap wonder with the way that he's being pressured now for that fourth place.
Yeah, maybe used up a little bit of his stuff too early there, really struggling. It was starting to struggle there before we had that caution. Now we're under fire from the 11 of Ross Tatum, the 42 of Sacchetti is right there, and Holland could find himself losing 2 positions if he's not careful. But Tatum trying to use that bottom line and just not getting the run off, and now under pressure from the 42 of Sacchetti to his outside down the backstretch.
Majority of the field not taking tires under that caution, deciding to just stay out. They've only got 3 extra sets in pit road to work with, so you've got to think about using them sparingly. On top of the fact that we have our stage break, don't want to lose track position, and that's why we're seeing this aggressive driving going on for 4th place. Nick Holland being pressured heavily by Cole Sacchetti. Ross Tatum going to be trying to sneak his way into the middle of these 2. Not able to clear the 42. He'll stay side by side for 5th.
Yeah, they're still battling down the backstretch here. Sacchetti with a good run to the outside, just nowhere to go as Holland's running that middle lane, kind of boxing in Sacchetti, but trying to pinch the 11 of Ross Tatum down here on corner exit. Not quite able to do it, but he just gets such a better run off the top line than what Tatum's getting on the bottom. Just nowhere to go as he continues to be boxed in behind the 68 of Nick Holland.
Trying their best to be aggressive in the 11. Not able to get that run off. Still going to be pinched on the inner groove. And Nick Holland able to hold off, as behind them a lot of shuffling also happening for that of 8th, as drivers are bouncing off of that outside wall. Just looks like drivers are getting very aggressive on the exit of the corner. That's where they're starting to feel the pain, as here's this pack behind Ken Campbell. You got Chris Stitz, Christopher Wade. They're almost trying to go 3 wide with Daniel Keith Jr. that was just involved that last wreck. Got some fresh rubber under that 23, allowing him to get racy here as Wade, Lyons, and that of Hale all on top of one another.
They're still battling. Lyons really struggling. We saw him running that 3rd line earlier on in this race when he was battling with Ross Tatum. I think he just overused his equipment there, starting to fall back as he continues to battle with last week's winner, the 53 of Christopher Wade. Wade trying to get that bottom line to work, trying to get the power down out of turn number 4, and he's going to clear that of the 25 down the front stretch, and Aaron Hale now is going to try to follow suit.
Lucas Lyons trying to have the best run he can here tonight, racing with a heavy heart for that of the rookie in the 25 machine. He's running a special scheme that he's going to carry on for the rest of the season. His grandfather passing away. Oh no, we'll come back to that. It's contact ahead. Nick Holland, Cole Sacchetti making contact. And it's going to be seen that of the 68 dropping to the inside lane. We stay green as that was off the racing line. Holland from that of battling for 5th all the way down to 16th.
And not sure what happened. Looking back at it, looks like Holland got a little loose off turn 2 and just kind of drifted down into that of Sacchetti and spun to the inside. Thankfully keeps it out of the tire barrier down there, but damage to the front depth for sure of the 42 and a little bit of damage for that of Nick Holland in the 68. Some more playoff drivers with issues early on, Sam.
I mean, if you're Will Bustler, if you were caught up in a wreck, I mean, if everyone has issues, then you're not in that big of a hole anymore to worry about. You see here, Cole Sacchetti also was battling up for that 6th place position, now down to 11th place, outside of the top 10. And with us being past halfway for when we're expecting our stage break at that lap 50, 42's got to find another groove to climb his way forward. But a lot of scares there. But back to what we were talking about with that of Lucas Lyons, driving a car for his grandfather that passed away this past Sunday. And this 25, hoping to have the best run possible for himself. I know that this is, whenever you're driving for someone that has passed away, you are always hoping for the best race of your life the next time you're out on track.
Yeah, you always want to go out and put on a show, but, you know, it's nice of Lucas to be racing in memory of his grandfather there. And we see it a lot throughout, you know, leagues that we cover. You know, it's the unfortunate part of life when you lose a loved one, and, you know, we're hoping that Lucas here has a good run, and you know, thoughts and prayers with him and his family as they go through this. But currently running inside the top 10, so holding strong there to the back half of the top 10, and getting some stage points. See if he can hold off the 42 Skinny, who's trying to recover after that incident when they call him.
Yeah, trying to have his best. And actually, I kind of want to hop on board with Lucas Lyons, get a cockpit view of what it's like for this machine as he's trying to figure out how to get by that of Christopher Wade. You also can see on that of the dashboard having a special tribute to his grandfather there, but trying to figure out how to get by this 53, trying different lanes. He was on the inside that last through 1 and 2, now goes to the outer groove, and the reasoning why, he's pressured. There's the 42 machine of Cole Sacchetti, and almost in the wall goes Lyons.
Yes, Sacchetti kind of pinched him up into the outside wall. The two almost made contact, and that could have been, you know, more disastrous for Sacchetti. That could have been more damage for him, but thankfully clears the 25, and Lyons is now trying to find a way back. Really dives it in hard in turn 2. And a little bit of shifting there, Sam. I saw the rev limiter, you know, all the way in the red, so I wonder if he's downshifting here in the corner.
I mean, they're getting down low enough, and I believe he is, as they're trying to find that perfect way to get out of the corner, and these drivers racing in a 4 gears, so, you know, shifting from 4th down to 3rd to try to get that better exit speed. You got to try everything at this point.
You know, that's something I would have thought about, honestly, to be downshifting in these cars, but look at that. Lucas Lyons utilizing the gear in these things to try to get a better run off. And so far, you know, he's holding strong here with Sacchetti and Wade. Still hasn't found a way around Wade. Sacchetti now to the inside of Christopher off of turn number 4. He's going to get that position cleared, but, you know, just an interesting tactic from these drivers trying to get every bit of speed out of these cars that they can.
Well, I think also on top of that, the main reason you might be seeing drivers trying to utilize a little bit of something extra is because they're driving so much slower than they were earlier on in the race. Their fastest laps for a lot of these drivers was a 31-second lap time or lower than that, and drivers now running a full second slower, and we're just at a 32 laps in. So I think that could be the factor on why drivers are starting to downshift, because they're just running that much slower now with the less grip on this rubber.
It could be, but you got to be careful when you're downshifting. If you don't hit that just right, you could really just either go straight into the corner or have issues off corner if you're putting too much throttle into it. Is just like that. Lyons into the wall. I think he missed his braking point or maybe missed the shift there, and he gets into the outside wall in turn number 1, and he's going to fall back a couple more spots.
Simple mistakes can be so costly. For those drivers further on back, they are trying their best for some good runs. So that Ryan Burchett back in 14th, he's trying to just surge forward for the best that he can, but some playoff drivers are getting a little bit frisky up front. They're battling for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They are on top of one another, and Ross Tatum right back to try to battle some of the drivers of his competition. It was Cole Sacchetti earlier on. Now it's going after Cameron Sarton.
Yeah, coming after Sarton here, trying to use that bottom line to his advantage. Dives it all the way down to that yellow line. We're going to get pinched here by the 24 of Sarton and see if he can get the better drive off. They're going to be side by side down the front stretch.
Curious to see. Now, I've seen this. I know it was almost A couple of updates ago on iRacing, but how many drivers would be willing to try to aim down to that yellow line, especially trying to aim for it on the exit of these corners out of 4? I've seen that work for other series and other vehicles. Curious if anyone would be willing to try it with these Xfinity cars.
You know, I'd be interested in that too. I've seen it, like you said, I've seen it in leagues where they run basically just the apron. You're running below that yellow line, and it makes speed. I don't understand it, honestly. As a driver, I don't understand how it works. I tried it, and it was terrible, but I'd be interested to see kind of the reverse wall ride situation to see if it works out for some of these guys.
That'll be going all the way up to the outside wall, go as low as you can go, the shortest distance of time. But as these drivers are trying to aim to go as low as possible, a little bit interesting note for our leader, kind of running the same line that he's been running all night long. That middle groove is where Rom Sherwood's been feeling the most comfortable. He aims low on the entry of the corner, lets the car drift high, and kind of does a mid-arc, trying to go hit apex in the center of the corner as high as he can, so he can get that vehicle straight in, get rolling, and just looking so much smoother than the rest of the field right now is this 2 machine.
Yeah, looking really good and just kind of setting his own pace. And I mean, why change what's working for you? I mean, he's been running the same line since the start of the race. Fastest car on track, a little bit quicker than that of the 11 of Ross Tatum, who was the second fastest car on track, as he cleared the 24 of Cameron Sarton. Now going to try to get around Sherwood's teammate, the 94 of Altus there. But Sherwood just looking really comfortable in that 2 machine with every passing lap.
Trying their best to slowly carve at this lead. It's 1.1 seconds off as we're coming up to 12 laps to go before this stage is done, as you are watching that of the Full Send Racing Series on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. The battling for 6th starting to heat up. Chris Stitz, Aaron Hale, and as well Ken Campbell in that 5th place position. Chris Stitz needing to get every point possible for himself, as these drivers recognizing that they need points are going to be so crucial, especially with how close the points are at the cutoff line of Christopher Wade, Aaron Hale. They're just 1 point difference on who's in or out of trying to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, these playoff points are going to be so important. 2 races till the cutoff line, and Aaron Hale trying to get everything he can on that bottom line, side by side with Stitz. Almost a little bit of contact with the 15 of King Campbell, but Hale using that bottom line, really rolling well here on the bottom as he drifts up into the 15 of Campbell, and Campbell goes half spins and saves it.
Somehow keeping that 15 straight. Now, was that the call, or could he have just let it go? But an incredible save to be seen there by Ken Campbell. But now, that slide, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow, recognizing we still got 10 laps to go before the stage is done, and to get some fresh rubber, and that just means each lap, it's going to be torture now to be trying to make it around these bends.
Yeah, he heats those rear tires up, heats the front tires up. His car's not going to have as much grip as it, or what little grip it did have, it's going to have even less now for the 15, and he's got that in the 23 of Daniel Keith Jr., who's, I believe, got fresh tires from his incident when he came down pit road right behind him. But Sacchetti in the 42, after his contact with the 68 of Nick Holland, he's caught up to these guys, so great recovery for that of Sacchetti.
Cole Sacchetti fell all the way down to that of 11th and 12th position, now up to 7th. Incredible recovery run for himself. Aaron Hill, Chris Stitz, they continue to bicker between one another, and the more that they battle, the more the 42 is just going to close in as Stitz throws it down low, hoping that the 22 is going to hold steady as he gets back into the throttle, going to use up the 4, making contact on the exit of the corner. And it's the 22 as well as the 4 slowing down. Here comes Sacchetti, thinking about trying to outbrake the both of them as he'll come in a little bit sideways into turn 3.
They're going to continue to battle. They got to worry about the 6 here. Travis Dart, that damaged 6 machine is going to be right here. Might end up holding up the 42 of Sacchetti, and he's going to have to fall back in the line behind the 4 of Aaron Hale. So Aaron's going to survive for maybe another half a lap, but Sacchetti going to dive it again down to the bottom, see if he can get back to the throttle quicker than the 4, but he's not going to be able to. And Aaron gets really loose off of turn number 2, and that's going to allow Sacchetti to get back to his inside down here into turn number 3.
Weaving back and forth on how you enter the corner. You go, if you're entering low, you're going to go high, and you're just hoping that you don't drift up in the other vehicle. But if you're the inside driver, what an advantage it is. If you accidentally drift up, hey, if I can't make 4 tires work, I'll make 8 if I make contact with the driver on the outside of me.
That's what, Aaron Hale did to that of Ken Campbell, and then what Stitz did to Aaron Hale. Got a little friendly bump in the corner to get the car to rotate, and thankfully for Campbell, he didn't completely get spun around. Was able to save it, still inside our top 10, but Stitz able to get by both of them. Now clearing out Sacchetti by Aaron Hale, and try to chase up this 22.
And that of Ken Campbell for 15. Those are some major points that he's going to be losing. Again, was battling for that 5th place position, gets contact, gets moved out of the way, now drops to 8th. What could have been a decent point steal, getting 6 points, now going to be falling back to 8th place, where he'll only get 3 bonus points, and he's technically 4 points out coming into tonight's race. That is one of those things of, what if you've gotten 3 extra bonus points at the stage at New Hampshire that could be rattling the mind of Ken Campbell later on in this playoff stint, as riding on board the 13, John Dart trying to get his way past that of Daniel Keith Jr. as well as Christopher Wade just outside of our top 10.
Yeah, and Wade really hasn't made much ground up this race, but starting to close in on these two as they battle, and this would get him 1 stage point if he can get around that of Daniel Keith Jr. And Daniel looking like he's starting to struggle here a little bit as we close in on lap 50, our stage break, and Wade's going to dive it here into the bottom and take it nice and easy, not quite side by side with that 23 machine, but closing the gap to get that last playoff position.
The big thing for Christopher Wade is he's not trying to make the pass on the entry or center of the corner. It's on the exit, on where he's trying to just get that better surge, get back on the throttle sooner than the 23. As Daniel Keith Jr. just going so high, utilizing all that grip that he had used up after coming into pit road, after being involved with our first caution of the day. Just seems like he's been way too aggressive, feeling like Superman. But drivers up front that have been trying to stay patient and trying to get the best finish they can before that, a lap 50. It is that of Joshua Altus, Ross Tatum, side by side for 2nd place.
And these three have just not been able to get any separation from one another, been on top of each other for the last 20 laps or so, and Tatum still trying to get around the 94 of Altus here to his inside down here in the 3s. Let's see if he really dives it in. He's going to dive it in a little bit deeper than the 94 and kind of drift up in front of him, but Altus is going to go for the crossover. Not quite able to get back to the throttle as much as he would have liked to pull that off and move Ross Tatum up to 2nd.
3 drivers, 3 different exit positions, and all going to stay in line at the end of the day for now, as we are now 2 laps away from our stage break being done. That of Rob Sherwood, the undeniable favorite so far, as wiggling's going to be happening for that of 3rd and 4th place. Altus, not the best launch. He wanted out of turn number 2. That of Cameron Sarton, able to hold on for now, but it gives the better opening for the 24 on the outside. That's exactly where you want to be. The speed's been better on the exit on the outside lane, and here comes Cameron Sarton.
Yeah, did a really good job there pinching Altus down to the bottom. And turn number 4 gets a really good launch off the top side, but Altus is going to drive it in hard here. Just keep side by side with that 24 machine, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get the drive off the corner to be side by side with Sarton down the back straightaway. And looks like Sarton's going to get that pass cleared.
Trying to race with respect up front, and that's exactly what we're getting right now. Giving each other plenty of space. You might make a mistake here or there, but you'll take whatever you can at the end of the day. And at a turn number 4, Rob Sherwood, the conclusion of lap 50. Give it to the 2 machine. What a run for himself, as the rest of the field going to be coming across the line, waiting for 10th place out of Christopher Wade to come across the line before they'll throw the yellow. But what a stage 1 for these drivers, as they're still racing on. And there's our yellow flag indicating our stage break here this evening.
Yeah, what a great stage there for the 2 of Sherwood. A good recovery for the 42 of Cole Sacchetti. Got all the way back up to 6th after his contact with Nick Holland. Holland all the way down there in 14th, but the biggest moment so far of the race, the 36 of Will Bustler, the 6 of Travis Dart, contact down the front straightaway that unfortunately took out our first playoff driver of the night in Will Bustler early on in this race.
Will Bustler, who came in last in points, needed to have a decent run this evening. Not going to be getting it. Andrew Medlin not showing up. That's going to give an opening for either Christopher Wade or Ken Campbell to try to bump into that of the top 8 in points. But for tonight, here are going to be your stage break points, as it's going to be that of Rob Sherwood taking the win for the 2 machine here at lap 50. That of Ross Tatum going to be getting 2nd place. Cameron Sarton gets 3rd. 4th goes Joshua Altus. 5th goes to Chris Stitz. Cole Sketty's going to get 6th place. Aaron Hale gets 7th. Ken Campbell 8th. 9th goes to John Dart. And Christopher Wade getting that last bonus point for the 53 machine. As drivers coming into pit road, mistakes could be made, and we'll keep our cameras on it as we're going to go side by side here for that of a quick stint. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Full Send Racing Series on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Some mistakes made under pit road as our dominator out of Rob Sherwood's going to fall back to third place, but giving the lead to Ross Tatum, Cameron Sarton. They're trying to pull away as the stage break racing is done. It's about making it and taking it to the end, as we are going to be giving you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name's Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart, as well as Rock Warrior Jr. running productions in the background. Trevor, A little bit of mistakes by the two, but it could be massive now with the fact that he's trapped now in third.
Yeah, slid through his box there on pit road. So just a mental error there coming to pit road under the stage break. Slides through his box, drops him back to fourth, able to get one spot here on the restart. But the man who dominated the first 50 laps of this race was untouchable. Now finds himself having to get through 2 more cars to get back to the lead. And that man in the lead now, Ross Tatum, the 11, was essentially the second fastest car on track. So now with that clean air, we'll have to see if Ross Tatum can be equally as dominant as what Sherwood was at the beginning of the race.
I was going to bring up the fresh air factor. That could have been the main reason why Rob Sher had such a major lead. But now Ross Tatum, he has been just slowly chipping away going forward. How will he continue on with that pace as drivers behind our top 3? Joshua Altus, he now finds himself lingering in fourth for the 94 machine, kind of exactly where he was before, just following in the shadows of the 2 here this evening.
It just hasn't really been able to make up a lot of ground. Was up to second at one point, fell back to fourth after Ross Tatum and Cameron Sarton got around him there toward the end of the stage, but currently just settling in right now. Got Chris Stitz right behind him, Ken Campbell, Christopher Wade, Aaron Hale, John Dart, Nick Holland up to 10th after the pit stop. So he's doing a pretty good job after getting some damage fixed, getting that car back up into the top 10 as he's battling with John Dart.
Drivers trying their best. I mean, recovery mode is always the key. But for Nick Holland, this is one of those moments where he's got to just settle in, start making that push forward just slowly. Kind of what we saw from that of Cole Seghetti. Just take it slow. It's going to come to you at some point. But speaking of Cole Seghetti, mired back in 11th place after trying to get that damage repair under our stage break.
Yeah, I think he and Nick Holland both just getting some damage repaired after their contact was made. And Seghetti, I mean, did a great job. Drove back up to 6th there at the stage after being back there in 12th position. So now he's going to have to do it all over again. And I mean, Nick's got Nick Holland in 68. We know he's got speed set on the pole, but can he put it together for more than just one lap? Can he be consistent over the course of a run? We're going to have to wait and see what the 68 will do here under this green flag run.
So he's going to be mired in 9th position. Well, if you're just joining us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we have had 2 cautions, 1 on-track incident bring out a yellow, and then we also had our stage break yellow to come out. 2 drivers officially out of this race, that of Doug Pierce, who called it a night after the stage break was done, and that of Will Bustler, decided to fly around the course like he was a trapeze. Crazy to see the 36 the way that he was reacting as drivers now just trying to settle in. It's going to be a long race, less than 100 laps to go, as Aaron Hale now making the lunge underneath the 15.
You know, and Aaron's been quietly moving his way through the field, up 6 spots from where he started. Looked like he had some decent long run speed there toward the end of the stage. Lost a position or 2 battling with Chris Stitz there toward the end of it. Yeah, and Cole Seghetti, but was doing really well, and now finding himself just outside the top 5 again, battling with the 22 of Chris Stitz.
This is something we've seen Aaron do before. Another series that we covered for the 4 machine on Thursday nights when we were covering the Stars and Stripes Cup Series. As their season has just come to a conclusion, you can go back and watch that after this race is done. But this 4, his MO was always, maybe not the best qualifying times, but he would always find himself up in the top 10, top 5 range by the end of the night. And he is certainly continuing to do that each and every week. It's crazy to see that he just, that's the pattern. It always seems like he settles in. Once the race pace and the racing aspect kicks in, he just naturally finds where he needs to place himself to get up front.
He takes a really passive approach to the first 15, 20 laps of a run, and just kind of saves the stuff, sees what's unfolding in front of him, and he takes advantage of it. He goes to the inside here with Chris Stitz. I think that pass may be done down here. The 1 tries to drift up, but couldn't quite get that slide job done there. They're going to continue to battle, but just got a little bit tight there in the center of the corner. You're going to have to fall back behind now.
And Campbell kind of able to see a little bit of deja vu on what happened to him earlier. I was seeing Aaron Hale just get very aggressive, think that there's going to be enough grip in that machine, and there just isn't. It just slides right up in the driver who's outside. And I think that's going to be the most gutsy thing of the night, is how well can you trust your equipment once we get into these longer runs, and there isn't the same amount of grip that there once was in those first 5 laps of the stint.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, we've already seen how aggressive people are willing to be diving into the corner. We saw how aggressive Aaron was those last 5 or 6 laps of the run with what he was going to do. And as this race continues to progress, these laps wind down, I think we're going to see all the drivers get more aggressive with their moves, just trying to get passes done so they can move up through the field.
The drivers continue to stay in line. Christopher Wade going to be in 8th position. Nick Holland going to be in 9th. Cole Sacchetti in 10th. I mean, what a string of drivers to all have in line. Top 10 drivers, all playoff drivers that are comfortable, settled in. And it always just seems, Trevor, once we get to the playoffs, the cream always rises to the top.
It seems like every week when we cover playoffs, all the playoff drivers usually up at the front unless somebody's just, really struggling with the track. I mean, we saw Will Bustler was inside the top 15, just didn't have the pace as the rest of the playoff drivers, and unfortunately gets caught up in that wreck. But, playoff time comes around, I think everybody realizes, hey, we can't just ride around in the back and collect points to get in. Now we got to be aggressive and get up there and get as many points as we can just to get to the next round.
And you just got to survive and make it to the end. Right now, looking really nice up front. It's going to be the 11. But as this group that we're watching right now, I mean, top 10 drivers, all within 5.5 seconds of one another. Really going to blanket over 7th to 10th, but starting to see little pockets growing. Once what we were seeing those first 14 laps of the race, we're now starting to see now of top 3, top 4 all racing on their own, or kind of around one another, and everyone else is just cannot break away, as that's what we're seeing right now with the fact that 5th on back cannot get away from one another, but up front it's just top 2 feeling comfortable.
And slowly starting to close that gap to the 11 of Ross Tatum. Sherwood really starting to lose a little bit of time to these guys. Hasn't been able to make up any ground, which is surprising with how quick he was at the beginning of the race. But, now that he's back there in traffic, really kind of struggling. But Sarton really closing that gap down the last couple of laps to the 11 of Ross Tatum.
I think this could be showing, though, in the fact of, fresh air. Yes, we know it's important. Having that fresh air allows your front end to really find the grip on where it wants to place itself. Get that aero push that makes your vehicle tight, as you see that Nick Holland just not looking comfortable in that Taco Bell machine. And here comes Cole Sacchetti. Opportunity. He'll go with a lunge to the inside, hoping for the grip. He'll get back on the throttle as he's ripping it on the inside. Christopher Wade do the whole strong for now as contact wreck. Oh boy, they hold on somehow. After that was a very bad angle to be making contact with one another.
I don't know how Sacchetti held on to that, but he did. I think Wade just jabbed on the brakes to make sure that contact wasn't any worse than what it was. But that's the 3rd or 4th time we've seen that tonight. Just drivers on corner exit drifting into one another because they're trying to get that power down. The car just gets tight on them. And for Sacchetti, just lucky he didn't spin off the nose there of the 53 Christopher Wade.
And that tightness, the level of tightness is something that's going to be growing. But, touching back onto that topic I was just talking about, Ross Tatum, I'm curious on, yes, he feels comfortable up front, but maybe the fact that he just doesn't know how to completely utilize the strength of that fresh air, just like how we saw that of Rob Sherwood that just dominated and pulled away so far ahead of everyone else. I mean, he was the maximization of that fresh air. So we're seeing that slight difference right now as Sherwood slowly chipping away and caning back up to these drivers in front of him.
I just noticed that Sherwood quickest car on track the last couple of laps was about 1.5 seconds back. Now make it 1.2, 1.1 seconds is at 2. As this run progresses, closing the gap on the 2 leaders here. And if those two get to battling here in the next couple of laps, that'll really help Sherwood out running these guys down.
And Sherwood's hoping for that little bit of contact, maybe a little bit of ruffling feathers to happen between our front 2. It can just make it so much easier on trying to make the pass, as drivers further in the pack that are having some battles between one another. Closest battles on course for 5th currently right now. Chris Stitz, Aaron Hale, they're right back to it of seeing the 4, trying to make this pass on the 22.
Yeah, these guys have been going at it since the drop of the green flag after the stage break, and Aaron still just hasn't found a way past the 22. I mean, we saw a couple laps ago where he got into the side of Stitz into turn number 2, but Aaron's still just trying to use that bottom line. You can't get the momentum, carry the momentum out of the corner that Stitz is able to do. Stitz really utilizing that middle line to his advantage, keeping the 4 pin to the bottom.
Now as well, another factor is to touch on, as the drivers were good on fuel to make the stages. Hale going to be even closer that go around in the center of the corner, but because of how close he was, 22 just couldn't get back in the throttle on the exit of the corner, but now drivers have to start thinking about pit stops due to the fact they were good on fuel to make it to the end of the stage because that was at lap 50. Now they've got to go over that of 100 plus laps on this go around. Trevor, fuel run we were given 65 to 70 laps for these drivers, meaning we're actually closing in very quickly to the range when drivers can start to come into pit road.
Yeah, we're getting really close, and I mean, this race is just flying by right now. The question is, you know, like every week when we have green flag pit stops, do you try to go for the undercut, utilize those fresh tires to your advantage, try to pull a gap, or do you stay out as late as possible to have those fresh tires to the end? And with how hard passing here is, Sam, I think the undercut might be the way to go.
I mean, it could be the way to go, but at the same time, the fresh rubber just seems so important to have. Danny Keith Jr. showed a great showing of the fact that he was damaged, just put some fresh rubber on after that first accident. And that was a 17-lap difference on tire wear, and he looked pretty dominant until he hit the plateau of around that of, 8th place. But I think that was a great showing of if any of these drivers have a spotter or a crew chief watching live on how do you want to react seeing a driver that was damaged just with fresh rubber, how much useful it is. I mean, I think the power is going to go to the leader on when do they want to come in, as they're going to be able to watch and see the drivers behind them on, do they come early and then I pit the lap after, or do I pit a couple of laps later on so I've got a longer duration of an advantage to the end of the race?
It's good. I don't know what the right strategy call is going to be, Sam. It'll be interesting to see when they finally do hit pit road, but we got a battle for the lead right now. Heating up in turn number 3 is Sarton, Sarton's going to dive it to the inside here of Ross Tatum in the 11. He's actually going to get that pass cleared before we even get to the exit of turn number 4, so move Cameron Sarton up to the lead now, and that's allowed the 2 of Sherwood to slowly close in. As Tatum's going to look to battle back here on the 24, but he's going to fall back in line into turn number 1.
Cameron Sarton just diving it down low a little bit early, not allowing the 11 to get to the inside. A try dive bomb move, not going to work. But now they're going to stay in line. How will Ross Tatum settle in? What an aggressive pass by the 24. And now does that aggression continue to pile forward as we are now halfway through tonight's race. As the drivers up front, Cameron Sarton, Ross Tatum, that of Rob Sherwood to be your top 3. Joshua Altus, Chris Stitz finishing out your top 5. And the battling for the lead, top 3, all within a second of one another. You see them all in our picture. And Trevor, just looking at the pace, got to say the 2 the fastest, but in the disadvantage on the fact that he's got to make 2 passes to take that lead position.
Yeah, he's got to make, get around the 11 of Ross Tatum, then get back up to the 24 of Sarton, because I'm sure he'll lose a little bit of time once he gets to the 11 and gets that pass done. And there's not a lot of pace difference between Cameron Sarton and Rob Sherwood. Those 2 currently the fastest 2 cars on track. But for Sherwood, just has that unlucky... He's in that unlucky position that he's got a car in between him and the 24.
I mean, for Rob Sherwood, if he's stuck in this 3rd place position for the rest of the race, that's got to be a hurting feeling, knowing that he was so dominant in the early going. It was just a simple pit road mistake at the stage break where he wasn't on the racing surface, just coming into pit road, and that's what cost him this lead.
Yeah, just a slight mental mistake. Like we said, slid through the box, lost a little bit of time on that pit stop. That little bit of time, I mean, he went from 1st all the way back to 4th there and just hasn't really been able to make that ground back up. So, when we get to these green flag pit stops, Sam, that's another thing that you've got to worry about is sliding through your box. And I'm sure that's going to be top of mind for Sherwood once we get to those green flag pit stops.
Sliding through your box, also just getting into the pit entry. I think that's also going to be a factor of how well do drivers want to settle in and hit their marks, because you easily could have troublesome positions of going into the box. I mean, going into the pit entry, get caught speeding, also just missing pit entry. 2 factors you do not want to be caught messing up, as the difference between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, pretty equal distance at this current moment, as Cameron Sarton now gets to feel a taste of fresh air, and that 24, now the fastest vehicle on track.
Yeah, and Sarton just starting to slowly pull away from everybody as he's got that clean air now. Really just able to put that car wherever he wants it, driving away. And, I think he, toward the end of that stage break, Sam, I want to say he was a little bit quicker than Sherwood was over the course of that longer run. And really starting to show here is Sherwood's kind of dropped off now. Of our top three, the third fastest was Sarton, Tatum, and Sherwood in that order. Fastest laps that time around.
Well, I think you probably touched on it a little bit better than I can on the fact of, when you close in on a driver in front of you, Drew, you're already dealing with tightness. How is that air affecting you with the on-top factor of these, older tires that Sherwood was feeling? Because he caught up, but now he's starting to lose ground.
It makes the car tighter. It just makes it a little bit harder to turn into the corner. It really just kind of wants to push up the track, as you can see there with Sherwood. I mean, just really struggling to hit his line that he was running earlier. He'd come in low, kind of drift up high, and then bring it back down low, but just drifts up a little bit higher. Can't get it turned down as much as he would following behind the 11 here of Ross Tatum. It's really starting to show as he continues to lose a little bit of time to Cameron Sarton, who's starting to pull almost a second gap back to that of Ross Tatum.
So much time and ground as we get to see these drivers entering that of turn number 1. The very different entries. The 11 going with that of a higher, kind of an arcing turn, as the 2 going with a more aggressive approach to trying to just stay settled in his position. 3 different entries, but some of the best battling on track in the middle of the field. Cole Sacchetti, Nick Holland, Ken Campbell, those drivers battling for 7th, 8th, and 9th. They're going to be on top of one another, as it's going to be that of Cole Sacchetti able to make the pass on that of the 98.
I'm surprised, Cole hasn't made up more ground than he has. It showed a lot of speed after he and Nick Holland had their issue down the back straightaway and moving back up through the field. But since that restarted 11th, just really hasn't gone anywhere in that 42 machine. Kind of just been stuck back here in 8th, 9th, and 10th. And, I'm really surprised to see that from him.
Well, I think also could be the fact of how much knowledge was being picked up from that first stage. How drivers, it always seems like you take some good knowledge from that first stage of how was I utilizing my tires? How can I change on this second approach? Could be the factor of a lot of drivers just learning a lot more from that first stage to now this stint, as the window to take us to the end from that of pit stops, it is now open on who's going to be the first to come to pit road, as everybody's going to stay out on track. I'm not surprised on this, as we're not even halfway through what this quote-unquote stint these drivers will be on for fuel, as they've been out there on track for 37 laps on this tire set. Curious, though, on who might think about being the first to trickle in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we're probably still about 10, 15 laps away from where I think we would see the first drivers really start to come down pit road. And, like you touched on earlier, the pit road here, really easy to miss. I mean, it's a flat entry, so I mean, you're already on a flat corner, and but it's really tight to get down to pit road entry. And the other thing you got to watch out for, pit exit tightens up a lot at the exit of turn number 2. The wall kind of juts out there, so drivers got to be careful not to hit that inside wall as they leave pit road.
All the factors that we are expected to have here this evening, as it's going to be that of Cameron Sarton still up front, but it's really high on that entry into the corner, and that almost looked very close, the way that Lucas Lyons almost just bended it into the wall earlier this race. That 22's got to be careful on how far he just lets that car drift up, but at the same time, he's hoping that it can give him a little bit of extra speed currently, as he is slower than the drivers in front, but faster than the drivers behind him.
Yeah, got around the 94 of Altus there, and Joshua not really able to go anywhere after that restart, kind of stuck in the same spot he was toward the end of the stage. But the 22, after his little bit of a battle in there with the 4 of Aaron Hale, able to make up some ground, put a gap between Ian Hale and get around the 94 at the same time. So Stitz slowly moving his way forward.
As the 22 continues the race on, some drivers battling for 7th place. That of Cole Sacchetti continues his march forward, as he'll get by Ken Campbell, or at least try to fully clear, and he will get clear. And if you want to be fully clear and know what's going on track, well, there's one great sponsor out there for you, and that is iRacing iFlag, as well as they've got some great utilization tools to help you out there on track with their digital pit board, giving you that of information, track temp, weather conditions, as well as much, much more. And if you'd like to go get yourself some great equipment from iRacing iFlag, go use our promo code FreakyFast2022. Get yourself set up today on track, as we'll touch on more sponsors later on, because there's some great battling now up front. That of Rob Sherwood He has finally been able to fall into the clutches of that Ross Tatum. It's Tatum really starting to fall off on speed.
Yeah, and Sherwood got to his inside in 3 and 4, just wasn't able to get the power down out of the corner that he wanted to, but starting to hound the 11 of Ross Tatum. Tatum really starting to fall off. Here is Sherwood looking to find any bit of advantage he can to get around. 11 decides to tuck right behind him here in turn 1. Takes that little bit of a higher line to see if he can get a better drive off the corner than that of Tatum. We'll have to see if he can get the run down the back straightaway.
Hoping that he's going to get a better launch, utilizing the draft as well as this course, a little bit over a mile in length, but drivers always like to categorize it just because of the driving style of a short track here at New Hampshire. And this course, I love to see when drivers are running here in all different vehicles, just because, yes, it can feel like a one-lane course, but there are so many different lanes to be used if you can just find that specialty, as drivers have had a lot of different spaces on where to put themselves. Up front, Cameron Sarton continues to pull away. For Ross Tatum, he is just trying to survive. And at this point, now drivers are in that position and spot as we're now closing in to lap 100. When do you come into pit road?
I still think it's just a little bit too early, but somebody might decide to pull that trigger and be out there for about 60 laps on a set of tires. And that'd be the longest run of the night for these guys on a set of tires. And I don't know how comfortable they're going to be running that long. But we'll have to wait and find out as the laps continue to tick away here. And Sherwood on a little bit further back here from the 11 of Tatum. Tatum doing a really good job defending that second position so far.
And as that 11 continues to run where he's at, I'm watching the track times currently right now on, who is looking the fastest. Our front three really dominated the first 30 to 35 laps of this early stint after our stage break at lap 50. Now on the later half of this stint, fastest cars on track actually going to be the 22 of Chris Stitz, looking extremely quick, and as well the 42 of Cole Sacchetti starting to find some extra speed back in 7th. I'm curious if, they both very much slower than our front three in the early portions after our stage break. But Trevor, that's some great knowledge for you to take in of if you truly protect your tires, you can start to make some major pushes. And that's what we're starting to see from the 22, who's only just that, a little bit under a second and a half off of this battle that we were seeing on screen there for a second.
Yeah, closing in on these two. The issue that they have, though, for Stitz and Sacchetti, Stitz is about 5 seconds behind that of Cameron Sarton, and Sacchetti about 8 seconds behind our race leader. So the time that they've lost, I don't know if they're going to be able to make it up as Tatum comes down pit road.
The 11 hitting pit road was being too pressured by Rob Sherwood, and now going to be one of the first drivers to come in. That's a highly unexpected move, but I think that of Ross Tatum might have gotten to a point where he was losing so much time to that of Cameron Sarton for a win. He has to switch it up.
This is going to be... I'm going to be really intrigued to see how the strategy plays out for him. He's going to have to go 59, 58 laps on this set of tires, and depending on how long our leaders stay out, Sherwood's in pit road. So this might trigger, Tatum pitting might trigger the rest of our leaders to come down pit road.
Well, for Cameron Sarton, he can still stay out there. Now, he's only going to be running about, based off of Ross Tatum's fastest lap he's put on all night long, currently running a little bit, that of 2 seconds off. So Cameron Sarton can officially stay out for about 2 laps and still should have the lead for a quick second. But again, 2 laps is probably everything that Cameron Sarton can give up, and that's where he's going to be coming into pit road for the 24 as drivers further on back. They're now going to be able to make their decision. There's the 22 of Stitz trying to find out a way to hold off the 11, but the fresh tires too strong for that of Ross Tatum.
And Tatum going to get this pass done really quickly, and there's the 2 of Sherwood who passed that of Tatum right before he pit, and Sherwood really good pit entry and exit compared to that of Ross Tatum. Is going to still hold that gap over the 11 machine.
And able to get back into the groove of things as the 2. That is a massive surge for himself. That entry lap was great. The exit lap was even better. He was 2 seconds faster on that out lap after coming into pit road, was the 2 of Rob Sherwood. That's how he got the pass done over the 11. Incredible to see for himself, as now up front leaders Chris Stitz, Joshua Altus trying to hold off as Altus under heavy pressure from the 4 as they've got lap traffic of Travis Stark going to drop down the inside and let our lead lap drivers battle this out for second place.
They're going to battle this out, but they've got the 42 of Sicchetti right there on fresh tires. He's going to get involved with this battle as they continue to battle, and Aaron's going to give a little bit of a bump to the 94 down the front straightaway, but Sicchetti in the 42 dives it down to the bottom, going to get that done, get himself not quite back on the lead lap, but gives himself a chance to go run down that of Chris Stitz and put himself back on the lead lap. But that opens the door for Aaron Hale in the 4 to get to the inside of Altus. He's going to do that down the backstretch and clear him off into turn 3.
To be able to clear, make the pass, and for that now with Joshua Altus, how does he want to react coming into pit road? And it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. Got past, I'm just going to come into pit road, get service done. We drop even further back to Nick Holland, a driver that has already made his stop, hoping that he's going to be continuing to find some speed to move forward as he's trying to catch up to Ken Campbell, as we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers still needing to come into pit road before this race is done, and they technically could stay out for another 10 to 15 more laps, but that's a lot of time you're giving up.
That's a lot of time to give up, and we'll have to see what their pit strategy is going to be. Is right now the battle for what would be the lead is going to be Cameron Sarton, who after all this is going to cycle through, will be our race leader. Sherwood will be up to second. Tatum will be back to third, as those drivers really good pit stops for themselves. But right now, Stitz, Hale, Lyons, all still yet to make their pit stops.
If you're staying out, you are just banking on this race to stay green as long as possible, as the 22 is Stitz. Cole Sicchetti, a little bit of a tap there. Don't expect to see that very often of a driver with fresh rubber giving contact to our leader, but if you're Cole Sicchetti, you've got to be making any type of move possible. You don't want to be the driver trapped, being that one driver being a lap down. Getting the lucky dog would put you all the way to the end of the line. You cannot afford that at this current moment.
No, we've seen how hard it is to pass, and for Sicchetti now unlapping himself so he doesn't have to worry about that if there were to be a caution. Won't have to go back to the end of the line because, like you said, that would be detrimental to him having to go all the way back there and try to pass everybody. As Stitz has come down pit road, Hale's come down pit road, Brian Burchett's in pit road, so that just leaves the 25 of Lucas Lyons, our last car, make his pit stop here, and he will cycle to the lead until he eventually comes down pit road.
And Lucas Lyons going to stay out for another lap. He will not be coming into the same time as Chris Stitz and Aaron Hale. Curious to see how the 25 is going to make this one work out, as battling for drivers that have already come to pit road. It's for 9th position currently. Ken Campbell, Nick Holland, that 68 trying to make the recovery run after major contact between himself and Cole Sicchetti earlier on in the race. And both, at least I think they could take the positive of the fact that they're still in the top 10. Contact, Ken Campbell knocked up, roughed up, and Nick Holland, he'll take that spot, but for Ken Campbell, he is not going to like that type of a move.
And poor Ken Campbell has just been used up all race long with drivers trying to get around him in turn number 2. That's the second time here tonight that we've seen the 15 just kind of get a little bit of a hip check in the corner as Nick Holland makes contact with him. Both of them very lucky to not have, been spun around there with that contact. We saw the front end of the 15 kind of lift up, but Nick Holland gets that pass done, moves him up another position. Now he's going to try to chase after that of the Joshua Altus.
I know we saw the aggressive contact from Will Bustler. Oh no, driver going to be spun around. That's the 33 of Brian Burchett. Because he's down on the quote-unquote apron, no yellow will be thrown, and he was not far enough sideways to trigger a yellow flag, which Lucas Lyons, what an advantage that could have been if a yellow flag had flown. Instead, we stay green, and the 25 still out on track.
That was a caution that Lucas probably was hoping to get there, but with the backstretch having so much runoff area here at New Hampshire, somebody spins to the inside, just not going to get that caution thrown. And unfortunately for Lucas, I think he's going to, in the next lap or two, have that of Cameron Sarton right behind him. And all that, staying out, he's going to lose so much track position with how long he stayed out here tonight.
Absolute bizarre moment of Brian Burchett spinning on camera. You saw it there, the 33 gets out of control, and he had just pit for tires, cold tires. You race completely different when you're on old rubber to new rubber, and now the 25 trying to get by that lap traffic the best that he can. as well, seeing that of the 24 get bigger and bigger in his mirror.
Yeah, it's about a 2-second lap difference between that of Sarton and Lyons, and Cameron's going to make that pass really easily here off the exit of turn number 2. And for Lucas Lyons, got to be thinking about coming into pit road here in the next couple of laps to get those fresh tires, as he is going to start falling through the field of drivers who have already made their pit stops.
And now, after being past that 25 into pit road, he is going to call it a done deal. Went as far as he could for fuel and tires until he was passed by the 24. The caution never came, but now going to be able to get service done for himself. But, you know, just in case these drivers, that of Aaron Hale, Ken Campbell. We talked about how Campbell was being used up a ton here on the entry of turn 1 and on the exit of turn 2. Well, he was about to be used up once again by the 4.
Yeah, and there's no love lost between these two after the contact they made early on. So Campbell's really going to run Aaron Hale hard, but Hale's on those fresh tires, stayed out later than everybody else. So he's got about a 6 to 8 lap difference on tires compared to all the drivers in front of us. We'll have to see how big of a difference it's going to make for the 4 machine as he works his way through the guys in front of him.
As right now, looking at how the drivers are lined up for our top 5 and what does the tire advantage look like? Well, for that of Cameron Sarton, he's on 12-lap old tires. Second place, Rob Sherwood, he's on 13-lap old tires. That Ross Tatum's on 14-lap old tires. 13-lap old tires for fourth place of Cole Sacchetti. And then just that of Meyer, 6th-lap old tires for Chris Stitz in that of 5th place. The problem, though, is you look at the ticker, there are huge gaps being placed between 1st back to 5th. So Stitz, yes, he's got the tire advantage, but the time, the way that these tires have been just plateauing after about 20 to 30 laps, that 22 has got to be aggressive on his runs, or hope that by the time that they get to those 15 to 10 laps to go marker, he's finally caught up to the 24.
And the issue, he's got about a 10-second gap to that of Cameron Sarton. And, you know, I don't know if the tire advantage that he has is going to allow him to catch up. Like you said, the tires start to plateau after about 20 laps or so, and not only does he have to worry about that, but he's got to get through Cole Sacchetti, Ross Tatum, Rob Sherwood. I mean, all these drivers have shown great speed here tonight, so he's going to end up, you know, using up the little bit of tire advantage he has, just trying to get around the guys in front of him.
And right now, that first driver we're talking about, Cole Sacchetti, going to be the first one. Chris Stitz has to figure out how to get by, and in an instant, needs to get by this 42. The longer he stays behind, the more he's going to be losing ground as Cole Sacchetti, a little bit of defensive push, trying to put a squeeze on the entry of the 22. And there goes Stitz, touching that yellow line a little bit on the apron, but with the extra grip that he's got, allowing the 22 able to get the launch out of the corner. They continue to stay side by side. The lunge going to happen, and Stitz clutching that of 4th place. Now, next driver in line is going to be the 11 Ross Tatum.
Yeah, using that tire advantage to the max right there, really getting aggressive in turn 1 and 2, going below the yellow line to get that pass done. Was able to get the power down out of the corner, clear the 42 of Sacchetti. Now got to run down that of Ross Tatum, and doing so, taking a little bit of time out of the gap that he had to our leader. Down now, you know, gained about a 1.5 seconds over that last lap. So Stitz really, you know, starting to close in, but I don't know if he's going to have enough time, Sam, as the laps continue to click away here. We're down to 41 to go.
It might have to be a yellow, or it could be just be patient and see what happens. But drivers starting to feel the pressure as it's 40 laps to go. Got a couple of more sponsors we got to say thank you to, that being the Admin Box. The Admin Box is a premium button box that allows you to have a plug set and ready to go to be the best admin or race control to hosted races or league races. It's really is so helpful if you need to throw an emergency yellow flag, clear black flags. It is all ready for you, again, to go be the best admin you can with the Admin Box. And if you want to go get yourself an Admin Box today, go use our promo code FFB-BOXX. That's FFB-box with 2 X's. And go get your Admin Box today. As well, big thanks, hey, to us. We've got merch out there for you to be grabbing, as we've got our Freaky Fast Broadcasting merch. We've got hoodies, we got t-shirts, and plenty of sizes and colors for you to feel comfortable for this fall and winter season. Hey, if you're looking for a hoodie, go make sure it's got Freaky Fast on it. Thank you so much to all of our amazing sponsors. As we are coming to the end of this race, we will take our final commercial break going side by side so you won't miss a thing. As the drivers up front, it's Cameron Sarton, that of Rob Sherwood, Ross Tatum, but the driver of note, watch out for the 22, Chris Stitz is on the move. As you're watching the Full Send Racing Series, round number 12 started here tonight. We'll be back in just a few moments.
No lower grip whatsoever. Up sideways. Sideways everywhere. Come on, man. Do what you can. The vibration in this car is the worst vibration that I've ever had, and the shifter's broken again.
Following, they're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the 00.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my, 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Stets gets into the wall, gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron, drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside, trying to get the win, and it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 to get into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is gonna steal the win here.
but second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the Season 5 Daytona 200. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Full Send Racing Series. It's playoff racing action, the start of the round at 12, and we've got less than 30 laps to go here at New Hampshire as the drivers are trying their best to survive. We saw a lot of carnage in the beginning of this race with Will Bustler going around and spinning in the air, but since then it's been clean, it's been green, and the drivers have been trying to keep themselves out of trouble. But up front, it's Cameron Sarton, the two-time champ, trying to already lock himself into the next round of the round of 8, as these drivers are all trying to keep themselves in a pretty patient place. But anything could change up. Just one bad spill for a driver would allow that of Prop Sherwood, who dominated the first stage of this race. Wondering if the two get a second breath there, what he can bring to the table, as we've got ourselves now that of 26 laps to go here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart. We got Robert Moyer Jr. running productions in the background. Trevor, we've been watching these drivers for this long run. We've gotten our green flag pit stops in, no one making any major mistakes, but right now it is all Cameron Sarton.
Cameron Sarton, once he got to the lead after the stage break, has been untouchable, kind of like what we saw with Sherwood. But, you know, that clean air, once he was able to get around that of Ross Tatum, just nobody's had anything for the 24 machine. We thought Sherwood was running him down for a little bit when Sarton got held up there with some lap traffic, but once he's cleared that, been able to pull that gap back out. And Chris Stitz, I mean, he was 10 seconds back at one point, got it down now to 6, but, you know, I think he's not going to have enough time to really have anything for Cameron Sarton, let alone that of Rob Sherwood.
And I'm really not surprised by what we're seeing up front on the fact that Cameron Sarton's finally, stepping up. It seemed like for the majority of the season, he showed little glimpses of being the two-time champ, why he was always a favorite to watch out for. He's gotten his wins periodically throughout the season, but this 24 machine, you just had to have that feeling. Playoffs come around, usually that's when champions show up, and that's exactly what we're seeing from the 24, as he is continuing to be on cruise control, inching closer and closer to 20 to go.
Yeah, he got his win early on at the Roval, and after that, just was really patient, just kind of ran his own races, got himself into the playoffs, and now that we're here, really starting to show how dominant he can be come playoff time, and with this win would lock him into the next round if this thing goes green to the end.
With the fact that our top 8 are all playoff contenders, I mean top 9, all playoff contenders, just showing the caliber of drivers that we have been seeing. And some of those drivers that are running well here this evening are 2 drivers that are outside of our top 8, that being Nick Holland, Ken Campbell. Based on how whoever has the better finish of those 2 drivers is going to be the driver who's going to be on that 8th place in bubble spot heading to Michigan next week. And they're both running 8th, 9th place. Someone's got to figure out where they're going to lie, and it looks like Nick Holland is the one who's going to survive currently in that 8th position, which is going to make that bubble spot heading to Michigan next week, Trevor, so much spicier on who is going to make it to the round of 8.
Yeah, Michigan next week is going to be so much fun to be a part of, and basically almost like a super speedway with a lot of tire wear. The draft is going to be so important, but taking care of those tires as well is going to be key. And drivers are going to be on top of one another. It's going to make for an exciting cutoff race, especially with how close the points are going to be between our 8th place and the bottom 4 there. And not a lot of separation, like you said, between Nick Holland and Cam Campbell on track. Just one position. Holland, after getting the pole, just hasn't had the speed all night long to stay up there in our top 5. He's been fighting back here to stay inside the top 10 all night.
With the way that these drivers are running right now, it really truly looks like it's going to be around that of 9 drivers racing for those final 8 spots. Christopher Wade, he's one of the drivers that was outside coming in tonight. He didn't get that many stage bonus points. On top of that, he's running 12th, which is that of 10th of the playoff drivers on where they're running right now. Andrew Medlin, who came in 7th in points in tonight's race, didn't even show up. That's going to bounce him into a must-win scenario. Will Bustler finished 18th this evening. He's going to be last. He was last coming in tonight based off points. He's most likely going to be in a must-win scenario. So that is 3 drivers: Christopher Wade, Will Bustler, Ken Campbell. All 3 of those drivers could be in a must-win scenario going into next week, which that is a tough task for yourself. But I got to say, if anyone could get it done, I think the 53 of Christopher Wade could be that underdog driver to watch out for.
I mean, he could be. He showed us last week, at Talladega. He didn't necessarily need a win to get himself locked in, but got the win to secure his spot into the playoffs, and just showed that, he's willing to be aggressive to get himself in. So I expect to see the 53 up front next week at Michigan, fighting for that win, and along with those other guys, of Will Bustler and Andrew Medlin. I mean, Medlin's won a couple races this season, and him not showing up here tonight, I expect to see the 12 machine next week, be up near the front fighting for a win, and I think we're going to see a lot of aggression next week, especially with it being a cutoff race.
And also, some other drivers, just a quick preview of what we're expecting to see next week. I think 8th, 9th place runner, Ken Campbell, he just won there. It wasn't a different car. It was in the Gen 7 Cup machine, the next gen car, and winning in a completely different league. But the majority of the drivers that run in this league were actually running in that race. And Ken Campbell, he won a championship, the highest pressure moment you could be in last Thursday for the Stars and Stripes Championship. He could be a driver that could have that pressure still going into next week, trying to just make it into the next round. I truly do believe he's already shown when the pressure is on, he can perform. I think this 15 could be someone to watch out for. But again, different car, same track. I'm curious to see if he can translate that over.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch next week to see if that does transition over into this series in this car. I mean, there's such a driving style difference between the Xfinity car and the next gen car. But at a track like Michigan, I mean, just having run there recently, I'm sure it's going to help Campbell a little bit going into next week, having that track knowledge and kind of what to expect from that track on a long run.
And how well will that carry over? Well, on track, there was a lot of space in between drivers, but right now, closest action on track, pretty close. It's for 5th place. Cole Sacchetti on much older tires than Aaron Hale, the 4 on the charge. But when we look at the 4 machine, there is a lot of rumpled up feathers and fenders, I should say, on that 4 machine, on that of the right side of the 4. He's used up plenty of cars. He's used up this 42 before. And will we see Aaron Hale try to make a dive bomb move for 5th place?
We've seen Aaron be aggressive, trying to make these passes, dive into the inside and just letting the car slide up, using the car to the outside, kind of as a little bit of a break, a little bit to help him turn, but no harm, no foul. Hasn't really, wrecked anybody, but used up Ken Campbell a little bit early on. He's used up Cole Sacchetti once, but let's see if he gets that chance to get back to the inside of the 42 as he's just kind of stalking in now out of turn number 4 down the front straightaway, the 4, looking for any sign of weakness out of that 42 machine in front of him. See what he does down here into turn number 1.
Curious to see as we could take an onboard camera with the 4, because I'm curious. These drivers have been out there for 40 laps on these tires, watching the wheel of Aaron Hale. We're late in the race. We're in the final stages of the run. We're coming to 12 to go for Cameron Soren. But for the 4 of Aaron Hale, he's got to hope the grip's still there somehow, some way, as he's working the wheel with the exit of turn 4, trying to find the settling point to make sure he can get back on the throttle.
Yeah, really smooth exit off the 4 there. Not a lot of side-to-side movement, and the wheel car didn't get loose on him. Going to go to the outside here to see if he can get a little bit better of a run. through the center of the corner and off over the 42 of Sakeni. But you see it right there, just a little bit loose on corner exit that allows the 42 to drive away. And another thing I've noticed, Sam, we saw it early on, Lucas Lyons was utilizing the shifting. Aaron Hale not downshifting this machine this late into the run. Just interesting in the difference of driving and driving styles between some drivers.
Yeah, I think for that, Lucas Lyons, he just felt so comfortable and trusting in his car handling skills. For that of Aaron Hale, he's been so aggressive, I think, trying to just catch and pass every driver he can with the freshest of rubbers and waiting as long as he did come into pit road. Now, the 4, with how aggressive he's been, starting to feel that pain for himself.
Yeah, starting to feel it. You can really just see it with how aggressive he's been, how uncomfortable this car is on corner exit. We'll see if he gets that same snap of oversteer out of turn number 4. There it is right there. You see how loose that car is on corner exit on these old tires as he continues to push and try to find any way around that of Cole Sakeni. This is a battle for 5th position. And again, using that outer line to see if he can get the runoff. But the last couple of times he's done that, just super loose on corner exit. A little bit better there for him. Able to stay right there behind the 42.
Major issues when we were talking about Aaron Hale and the battling going on right here. Drivers up front, in front of these drivers, Ken Campbell. Issues on the backstretch, accidentally ran into the outside wall, downshifted too soon, blew the engine, and now has coasted into pit road. Campbell's day is done.
It's unfortunate for Ken Campbell right there. Just uncharacteristic mistake from him and just missing. I mean, we talked about it, shifting, not something we typically talk about here. It's something you have to worry about, but if you miss that shift, don't hit it just right, it can snap the car loose, and not only do you have to worry about that damage, but motor damage, and another playoff driver with issues and late in the race for the 15 machine nonetheless.
And with that type of an incident, a dramatic flare is starting to hit us here late. Less than 10 to go. Cameron Sarn's feeling comfortable, but the driver behind him, Rob Sherwood, is not. Chris Stitz, he was 10 seconds off of our leader. He was that of about 8 seconds off of Rob Sherwood. Well, now Sherwood's under the pressure. Stitz trying to take that second place away.
You know, we wondered if Stitz was going to make it all the way up here to Sherwood. Wasn't for sure if he was going to be able to with how far back he was, but made quick work of Cole Sakeni, quick work of Ross Tatum, and now that 22 machine, about that of 1 to 2 tenths quicker than Rob Sherwood. Still not as fast as the 24 of Sarton, just showing what kind of pace Cameron's been able to put down there. But Stitz closing the gap now to Sherwood in turn number 3, really starting to close in on the 2 machine. And will he have enough time, though? Catching him is one thing, Sam. Passing him is another, and he's quickly running out of laps.
Running out of laps, but he has been consistently faster than Rob Sherwood. That has been the big plus. But that means, where is that positive time coming, and where is he potentially losing that gap? Trying to go with an early apex, gets back in the throttle sooner. Here comes Stitz right on the back corner. You can just tell how much more grip he is working with, as here comes the 22, diving it down low, right to that yellow line, just like what we saw when he first came into pit road, making passes earlier on that of Cameron Sarton. Well, now, I mean, that of Cole Sakeni. Now the 22, he's got the grip, he's got the speed, he's got the nose over Rob Sherwood into turn number 1, and he'll use up that 2 just a little bit in the apex of 1 and 2.
That drifts up just a little bit, didn't get into the 2 machine, but caused the 2 to check up just enough that he's able to clear that of Rob Sherwood out of turn number 2, so move Stitz up to 2nd position. And what a drive this has been for Stitz after that pit stop. 7-lap pressure tires that he had over Sherwood and those guys, and the fact that he was able to close in what was essentially an 8-second gap over the last 30 laps or so. The 22 is flying, but unfortunately just running out of time to run down our leader, Cameron Sarton.
And as that battle was happening, the same battle for 5th place finds itself being over, as Aaron Hale using up a little bit of the 42 of Cole Sakeni and getting more fenders bent in, but taking the positions as he'll get them. The fresh rubber really starting to utilize for the 22 and the 4 here late. 4 laps to go. Make it 3 for Cameron Sarton.
And right now for Cameron Sarton, just does not want to see a yellow flag come out and give these guys behind him a chance to make a move on him on a green-white checkered. So 3 laps to go. You just got to hit your marks here. Don't be overly aggressive. You've got almost a 5-second gap back to that of Chris Stitz. And I think if he can just be smooth here, he comes bring it home with a win, he'll be locked into the next round. I'm sure that's exactly what Cameron Sarton wants to do.
I mean, think of the pressure got to be taken off heading to, Michigan, where it's going to be a tough track to watch out on drivers utilizing the draft. But with 2 laps to go, now going to be just that of a half a lap to find himself getting the white flag and having that pressure lifted for that of the 24.
That's going to be a nice feeling for him, not having to worry about Michigan. If he had an incident early, maybe getting knocked out if he had an incident early there, didn't get this win here today. But right now, searching for that white flag coming out of turn number 4. Going to see that white flag. One more lap to go for Cameron Sarton.
Cameron Sarton gets the freaky fast white flag for himself in the 24. Now just has to hit his marks as over that of a 4-second gap lead to Chris Stitz. Stitz, yes, he stayed out a little bit too long, tried to have any type of advantage, but it just is not enough because the 24, the 2-time champ, trying to become a 3-time champ after this season. Safe, secure, safe for himself to secure that fresh air. Well, now, let's call him secure going into the next round because round 8, it is booked. The ticket is there. Cameron Sarton wins here at that of the K-Nugz Paint Shop 169.
Cameron Sarton, that second half of the race was the most dominant car on track. Nobody had anything for him. Once he got the lead, shortly after the stage break, after he got around Ross Tatum, just nobody could hold anything to him, and comes away, walks himself into the next round, doesn't have to worry about Michigan next week, and just go ahead and think ahead to the round of 8.
An absolute incredible run to see from that of Cameron Sarton here this evening. That 24 just hit his marks, placed himself in a great positioning. Rob Sherwood's going to be kicking himself on the fact that he made the mistake at the stage break pit road. But if that 2 didn't make the mistake, the what ifs would be there. But we do know one thing: the 24 gets to burn it down here tonight. He will be blocked himself into Michigan, going into the next round. Won't have to worry about Michigan. But for us up in the booth, we're going to step aside when we come back. It's the post-race show. We'll talk our top 3. That of Rob Sherwood, Chris Stitz, and the 24 who's burning it down. That of Cameron Sarton in just a few moments. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It's for the full send racing series. The playoffs just started. Well, first race of the round 12 is done, and we're going to start things off with that of third place finisher Rob Sherwood and get his thoughts on how tonight went. Rob, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. Congratulations on a third place finish. How you feeling after that one?
Mixture, honestly. Really disappointed myself on pit road. I don't know that I had the long run speed to compete with those guys, but I feel like I kind of handed them track position. So a little bit disappointed on that end, but 2 playoff points tonight. So that's what I'm trying to hold on to.
And Rob, after that pit road mistake there at the stage, I mean, was it dirty air? Was it just track position and just how tough it was to pass around this track that didn't allow you to get back up there? I mean, what was it that was so difficult to get back up to the 24 of Cameron Sarton?
I think track position, it's very different. You know, he had better long run speed than I did, just being completely honest. You saw that as he pulled away from everybody. But I think the main thing was, if it's a big difference between him trying to be behind me and pass me for 50 laps versus me trying to catch him for 50 laps. It's a lot harder to pass somebody here than it is for the faster car to just drive away. So, you know, it's, even if you do save your stuff and you do have a better car, it's very difficult to make passes here. So I think a combination of, I just didn't do a good enough job of saving my tires, as well as just track position here is so imperative.
Well, speaking of a place where we could be seeing making it hard to make passes, we're heading to Michigan next. How are you feeling about heading to the Irish Hills next week?
Good, good. I love Michigan. It's so funny. I have contrasting, like, a love hate relationship. I can't stand running Auto Club, but I love running Michigan. And I know everybody yells at me. They're like, they're sister tracks. Well, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll go get them next week.
Oh, Rob, can't wait for that. But here for tonight, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, just shout out to my teammate Josh Altus. We had a great week of practice getting ready for this. Shout out to my wife. She's had some big personal things going on this week in her life that kind of overshadowed this. So I'm glad that things are moving in the right direction for her. Um, great great race as always. I know I enjoy running with Chris Stitz and the 24 Cameron Sarton. They're both fantastic drivers. So just shout out to Travis, Full Send, you guys in the booth. It's great to hear your voice, Sam. I feel like every time I've been in the booth, I haven't been able to talk to you. So yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, I thought maybe I was your bad luck charm. So I'm happy that we're able to talk. That is going to be the two of Rob Sherwood, able to find himself a third place finish here tonight. Congratulations on that, and good luck next week at Michigan.
Thanks, fellas. See you next week.
As we go from third place, we go to second, where we talk to that of the 22 of Chris Stitz, who was one of the biggest chargers there late, had the fresh rubber, but just didn't have enough time for the lead. Chris, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. Congratulations on second place. I mean, how are you feeling after being out there and making all the passes that you had to make there late?
I'm sweaty. I'm tired. My wrists hurt. But it was a lot of fun though, coming up through the field. It was the strategy that I pulled with pitting a little later worked out. Just needed probably like 10, 15 more laps to get Cam or get close enough to him.
Chris, I mean, that strategy worked really well for you there, moving your way up through the field. I mean, we saw a couple of drivers tonight utilizing downshifting. I mean, was that something you thought of or something that you used tonight at all to help get around this racetrack?
Earlier in the run, I had heard a couple people next to me that I could hear their shifts and everything, but I just stuck in fourth the entire race and just went for it.
It would seem like a much better way to try to save those tires for the later on. Well, Chris, a great finish for yourself, especially with the way that we're in the playoffs, with one more race still left in this round. And just as quick as we start, we're about to have it finished. How are you feeling heading to Michigan next week?
Feeling pretty good. Being up in the playoffs where I was and getting a second place finish, I think I just got to get a top 10 next week, and I think we'll be pretty set for the round 8.
We cannot wait to see what next week brings for us. Chris, congratulations again on second place here tonight. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Thank you guys. I'd like to thank Lake Anna, Frostfire, my dad watching at home, you guys up in the booth, of course, and Travis and everyone that's involved in running this league. They always do a really good job. Excited for the rest of the season.
And we're excited for it as well. That is going to be the 22 of Chris Stitz. Congratulations on second place, and good luck heading to Michigan next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
As we go from second place, we head to victory lane, where we bring in the two-time champ to get his thoughts. Cameron, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. Congratulations on this win. Man, how does it feel knowing that you're already locked in and heading to the round of 8?
Some relief for sure. It was a fun race tonight. So a lot of slip in, slide in. Air was a factor. Saving tires was a factor. So that was not a lot of New Hampshire I've ran. So it was a lot of fun and get to take a little breather next week, thankfully. So I was tired of finishing, second. I feel like that's all I've been just a little short the entire year, and finally overcame the little hump. So feels good.
Cameron, once you got the lead there from Ross Tatum after the stage break, I mean, you were basically untouchable. I mean, was it just the clean air? We saw you had the speed on the long run toward the end of the stage, but I mean, what was the difference once you got to the lead?
Yeah, the clean air definitely helped. At the first few laps after I passed him, I didn't really know what to do because I've been on someone's back bumper the entire race, so I was overdriving a little bit. But kind of the end of the first stage there, I was kind of stuck behind the 94. Let Tatum go to see if he could get around him, and I was staying with him. I felt really fast. I was kind of just saving my stuff there, so I knew I kind of had some speed. So I kind of just maintained after the stage break, and then once I got around him, it's just getting that right pitch strategy, which worked in my favor. Came out a little gap ahead of him and Sherwood, and thankfully it stayed green. I feel like I got no luck in some of these races, but finally it stayed green.
Yeah, I mean, there were certainly a couple of scares that we thought maybe could have brought out a yellow there late, but luckily it stayed green. Cameron, you're locked in. You don't really have to truly worry about Michigan, but is there a plan that you're trying to set up heading into next week?
Just a solid run. I mean, obviously getting the extra playoff points, either first, second, or third next week's going to be the goal. Obviously to win, but just a solid race. I like Michigan. Was not good at their next gen last week, but won Xfinity last year, so hopefully we can or the truck, excuse me, last year, repeat that and get a few extra bonus points going into the round of 8.
Well, we can't wait to see how that goes. Cameron, before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, shout out to mom, dad, grandparents watching. Hello. K-Nugz for the sponsor of the race. Make sure to go check them out, as well as Lap Traffic Podcast. Just dropped a new one. So be sure to go check them out too. Whatever you watch podcasts or listen, not watch podcast on. And Hack Racing Team, another good day. Cole looks like he got into it early in the race, so would assume probably would have battled, but Charles had a good run, and Travis for putting on a good league. So on to next week and going for a three-peat.
Well, that is going to be the two-time champ winner here tonight for the K-Nugz Paint Shop 169. Congratulations, and good luck next week at Michigan.
Thanks, boys. See you next week.
As we go from victory lane, let's take a look at the unofficial results here tonight as drivers got a much cleaner race, and I think they might have been expecting. There were a couple of big scares. We had the big wreck early on with Will Bustler, and as well that of Travis Dart, but after that, a couple of scraps here or there, but not as many yellows. Only yellow after that was for our stage break at lap 50. Then we stayed green with Cameron Sarton getting the better pit stop at the stage break and a better drive at the end of the day, getting the win for the 24. The 22 of Chris Stitz comes away with second. Rob Sherwood gets third. Ross Tatum fourth. Aaron Hale going to be getting that a fifth. Cole Sketty sixth. Seventh goes to Nick Holland. Joshua Altus gets eighth. John Dart ninth. Lucas Lyons, great run for the 25, gets 10th. The rest of the field, there's certainly some playoff drivers there, Trevor, that are going to need some good runs heading to Michigan next week.
Yeah, Christopher Wade down there in 11th just didn't have the speed tonight in that 53 machine to get inside our top 10. Ken Campbell, I mean, after getting used up all night long, was still inside our top 10. Just a simple mistake going into turn number 3 with the downshift takes him out of the race, puts him in a must-win situation next week in Michigan. And then Will Bustler, I mean, the contact with Travis Dart down the front stretch, and then the flipping into turn number 1, the 36 is going to be in the hole heading into Michigan next week. But Sam, Michigan next week, it's going to be exciting. We've got about 3 or 4 drivers that are going to be in must-win situations. We've got one driver in Cameron Sarton locked into the next round, and I'm excited to get to Michigan next week to see what happens.
I was going to say, maybe we only have 3. Well, it could turn into 4 drivers that are outside looking in, could all be in must-win scenarios with the ways that we're seeing our top 8 run here tonight. But man, what a race it was at that of New Hampshire. We got plenty of great other racing action throughout the week. As for the drivers, we got that of tomorrow night. Wicked Racing League. It's their cutoff race to see who's going to race for the Final Four. And their cutoff race, Bristol. More short track racing to be seen. Then for championship finales, that's what we get for Saturday night for the WSSR. They're heading to Chicagoland. They've got their Final Four set. Now, who's going to get the championship for Season 5? Can't wait for that. ISRC, their cutoff race is going to be happening on Monday night. And then we're right back here for more playoff racing action. Can't wait to give you the coverage. Trevor, before I give our final call, what are some of your final thoughts of the night and heading into next week?
Yeah, just a great race overall. I mean, we saw tales of two halves there. I mean, we saw how fast Sarton was in the long run. Before the stage break, just couldn't get around the guys in front of him, and Sherwood was the dominant car out front. But once the stage happened and those two roles got reversed, Sarton able to drive away and secure himself into the round of 8. And on next week, we go to Michigan. A big 2-mile racetrack, a lot of room to pass. Draft is going to be key. Pack racing, tire wear. Can't wait to get in for the cutoff race and see what happens.
Cannot wait for it and all that coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Trevor Earhart, Robert Moyer runs productions, and everyone else here at that of Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you for watching tonight's coverage. Hopefully we'll see you on our next broadcast. It's tomorrow night, the Wicked Racing League. And if we don't see you then, we'll see you next week. Michigan, who's making it to the round of 8?